It was a night of unexpected tension and media spectacle as Meghan Markle made headlines again, this time not for a royal feud or a bombshell interview, but for an unexpectedly sharp reaction to humanitarian chef José Andrés during his appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The Duchess of Sussex, known for her carefully crafted public persona, showed a rarely seen side of herself, one marked by indignation, deflection, and what critics are calling a celebrity superiority complex. The drama unfolded when José Andrés, founder of World Central Kitchen and longtime Netflix collaborator, offered what appeared to be a measured critique of the direction and tone of Meghan's latest Netflix documentary. What followed was Markle's forceful and unapologetic clapback, one that is now drawing renewed scrutiny toward her media strategies and treatment of collaborators. According to audience sources and behind-the-scenes reports, the tension began when Chef Andrés, respected globally for his humanitarian work, made a light but pointed comment on the Duchess's latest Netflix project. While not dismissive, Andrés suggested that the show felt overproduced and lacking in soul, contrasting it with his own content that focuses on the raw emotion of real people in crisis. "I believe stories should elevate others, not just protect personal legacies," he said, prompting audible murmurs from the audience. Within hours, Meghan, who was not present at the studio but reportedly watching the broadcast live, issued a public response via her spokesperson, an unusually rapid and confrontational move. In her statement, she defended her show as a deeply personal narrative rooted in truth and integrity and accused critics like Andrés of projecting their discomfort with a woman owning her narrative and using her voice on a global platform. But it didn't stop there. 2 days later, Markle made a surprise appearance at a media event in New York and addressed the issue again, this time in person, describing Andrés' comments as disappointing and another example of successful women being undermined by men who pretend to be allies. This isn't the first time Meghan Markle has responded aggressively to public critique. Her Netflix docuseries Harry and Meghan, released in 2022, was panned by critics for being overly self-indulgent and lacking in journalistic integrity. Yet Markle and Prince Harry insisted that the project offered a necessary counter-narrative to the British media's portrayal of their lives. Critics, however, argue that instead of setting the record straight, Markle has used her media deals as platforms to revise history and demonize dissenters. What makes the recent flare-up with José Andrés particularly notable is his long-standing friendship with Prince Harry. The Duke has collaborated with World Central Kitchen on multiple charitable efforts, including establishing community relief centers. By publicly challenging Andrés, Meghan has not only placed herself at odds with humanitarian icon but potentially risked a rift within the couple's philanthropic alliances. Insiders claim that even Netflix executives were caught off guard by the Duchess's reaction, privately expressing concern that such public spats could damage future collaborations. Moreover, Meghan's response has drawn criticism from feminist and media circles alike. She framed this as a gendered attack, but it really wasn't, says NYU Media's analyst Clara Jenkins. Chef Andrés criticized the content, not her identity. Turning this into a misogyny issue distracts from the valid concerns about the integrity of her work. Others have echoed similar sentiments, saying Markle's tendency to position all critique as personal persecution erodes the power of genuine social justice causes. Behind the scenes, Netflix is said to be reevaluating its partnership with the Sussexes. While the streaming giant initially saw great value in the royal couple's star power, internal sources suggest that their projects have underperformed relative to investment. In addition, the constant swirl of controversy makes it harder to market their content to global audiences. When every piece of criticism turns into a media firestorm, it becomes exhausting for viewers and for partners, said a Netflix executive who requested anonymity. Perhaps most telling is the growing divide between public sentiment and Markle's self-image. Social media, once a bastion of support for the Duchess, has seen a growing wave of frustration. On X, formerly Twitter, users pointed out that José Andrés is one of the few public figures with an unimpeachable record of humanitarian service. If Meghan Markle is really about compassion and global upliftment, why would she tear down someone who feeds war-torn communities? One viral post asked. In many ways, this saga reflects a deeper issue in Meghan Markle's public trajectory, a blurring of advocacy with self-promotion and a growing inability or refusal to accept criticism as part of the creative and social process. Where once she was hailed as a modern disruptor of outdated royal traditions, she is now increasingly seen as a figure who weaponizes identity and victimhood to shield herself from accountability. In clashing with a man whose life work involves feeding the hungry and aiding disaster zones, Meghan Markle may have overplayed her hand. In the court of public opinion, the Duchess's fiery defense might not read as strength, but as insecurity cloaked in outrage. As Netflix reconsiders its next steps, one question remains: is Meghan Markle truly telling her story, or just silencing everyone else's? As the backlash intensifies, Meghan Markle finds herself at a crossroads, not just in her public image, but in her influence as a cultural figure. What began as a mission to reclaim her narrative has, for many, morphed into a pattern of selective storytelling where dissenting voices are branded as threats rather than engaged with in good faith. José Andrés is not a tabloid journalist or a royal biographer. He is a globally respected humanitarian whose critique came not from malice, but from a sincere concern about storytelling integrity. Observers now question whether Markle's media empire is less about truth-telling and more about narrative control. With her rapid-fire rebuttals and consistent reframing of critique as personal attack, even former allies are reportedly growing wary. The Duchess's insistence on being seen only on her terms has made collaboration difficult and increasingly untenable. Meanwhile, Andrés has refused to respond further, standing by his original remarks and letting his record speak for itself. His silence in the face of Markle's escalating response has only served to magnify the contrast, one figure using humility to highlight global need, the other wielding celebrity to defend image. The optics are stark and, for Meghan, increasingly unforgiving.